Okay, I'm going to talk about this book called I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, and it's a realistic fiction. It's pretty darn good, and I recommend it to quite a bit of people. Mature young adults mostly, because it's got some language, I'm not going to lie. Okay, so, Jandy Nelson, she was born November 25th, 1965. She's about the age of my mom, which I thought was pretty cool. And 13 years prior, she worked as a literary agent, I think it was called. She wrote another book called The Sky is Everywhere, and that's the only other book that I could find that she wrote. I'll Give You the Sun is a New York Times bestseller, a Prince Award winner, and a Stonewall Honor book. It's crazy. The setting is in Lost Cove, California. It's a fictional town, but it's set in modern time. And the two main characters of the book are Noah and Jude. So this book is told in two different perspectives. One from Noah's side, who gets the younger years, like 13 and 14, and one from Jude's side, who gets the older years, 16. She only gets 16, I think. Okay. The mood for Noah's sections would be very exciting and fast-paced, and for me, it caused a lot of anxiety, I'd have to say. And for Jude's perspective, for Jude's parts, it's almost dreary and gloomy, and even though it's not always stormy, it just feels that way in her chapters. Like, the sky just always looks gray in my mind when I read her chapters, which I thought was interesting. So, the main conflict of this book is between Noah and Jude, actually. So, when they were younger, they were inseparable. They were always Noah and Jude together as one. As they grow up, Noah and Jude are trying to find their own identity. Jude struggles more with this, and she loses herself in her younger years and does a lot of horrible things. In the later years, Noah loses himself due to tragic events that you'll figure out once you read this book, because I know you're going to, because it's a good book. And you're gonna read it. And they grow apart, but they want so bad to find each other again. They want to find themselves, and they want to be like they were when they were younger. They want to be inseparable. They want to be Noah and Jude again, because those were the years, those were the days for them, like, honestly. And it's really sad when they do grow apart, because you can see it happening. It's, it's heart-wrenching. But anyway, the theme for the overall book, I'd have to say, is just coming into your own identity, finding yourself as you're growing up as a teenager, which can be very difficult and scary even, especially if you're different, like Noah is. And you'll figure out how he is once you read this book, because I know you're going to. But again, theme, coming into your own identity, finding yourself as a teenager, and growing up. So, I got a couple of pages marked. Got a couple of pages marked for reading off these quotes. I got a couple for you. Just a couple. All right. So, first quote is from Noah's chapter, or one of Noah's chapters. Heather runs off to join the Hornets. The whole room's been engulfed by Jude's hair. The whole universe has. I fall into a recliner. Nothing makes sense. It's just a big stupid game, he said. No big deal. But then he said it was no big deal when his mother's friend, or boyfriend, came on to him too, and that seemed like it was a pretty big deal to him. Maybe no big deal is code for, this is supernaturally screwed up. I'm sorry, I tell him in my mind. It was you, I tell him. I kissed you. Crazy wild. Oh my god, it's so good. Anyway, another quote from Noah's perspective. Jude is what went wrong. I can't believe she'd go this far. I have to do something. No, I shout, jumping up from the chair. No! Only I don't do that. I run to the egg timer, grab it off the table, and ring it, ring it, ring it, and ring it. Only I don't do that either. I don't do anything. I can't do anything. I've been eviscerated. Self-portrait, gutted fish. Good God, that is, gets me every time. Anyway, This time, a quote from Jude's perspective, in reference to previous events in Noah's perspective. Alright, so quote from Jude's perspective. For the record, I knew what was going on between Brian and Noah, even if no one else did. All that summer, when Noah came home at night from hanging out with him, he dropped pictures of Noah and Brian until his fingers were so raw and swollen he'd have to take trips from his room to the freezer, where he'd bury his hand in the ice tray. He didn't know I was watching him from the hallway, how he'd collapse against the refrigerator, his forehead pressed against the cold door, his eyes closed, his dreams outside of his body. Can we talk about it? Like, talk about poetic. Oh my god. Another quote from Jude's perspective. To be clear, more than anything, I wish I hadn't gone into that closet with Brian. But their story wasn't over that night. I wish I hadn't done a lot of things I did back then. I wish going into that closet with Brian was the worst of it. The right-handed twin tells the truth, the left-handed twin tells the lies. Noah and I are both left-handed. Good God. And one final quote from Jude's perspective. This is more of a passage, I'd have to say. To lighten the mood in my head, I ask, Dad, isn't there a disease where the flesh calcifies until the poor, afflicted person is trapped within their own body like it's a stone prison? I'm pretty sure I read about it in one of your journals. He and Noah share one of their glances at my expense. Oh, Clark Gable groaned. Dad says, it's called FOP, and it's extremely rare, Jude. Extremely, extremely rare. Oh, I don't think I have it or anything. Not literally, anyway. I don't share that I think the three of us all might have it metaphorically. Our real selves buried so deep in these imposter ones. Oh my god. So many emotions happen in this book. Anxiety, excitement, happiness, overwhelming happiness, sadness, overwhelming sadness. It's so good, okay? It's a New York Times bestseller for a reason, I swear. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So, I don't know, I definitely said this in the beginning, but it was probably very rushed, so I'm going to say it again. I would recommend this book to mature young adults because it has some language in it that I didn't think there would be. My friend Sophie recommended this book to me. She said it was extremely good, so I gave it a try. And it is. It's so good. It just has some language in it, and I think you have to be a mature person to be able to, read it and take it seriously. And I'm sure all of you are. Like, I know you guys. You can read this book and you're going to, because it's a good book. Anyway, you're gonna go out and get this book because it's a good book. Because I think it shares a very relatable insight on growing up, and growing up different especially. I think all of us can relate to that in one way or another. It's very relatable in terms of growing up, because we're all in that process right now. We can all relate to whatever they're going through. Even though some situations in this book are a little more extreme than what we might be handling right now, I think in one way or another, y'all are going to be able to relate to this book.